Buy tickets at agua.org.
Good morning, America. Flash flood alert. Torrential rain sweeping up these cars in the Northeast, sending them crashing into a bridge. And rain forcing this fountain to erupt at JFK Airport overnight. A helicopter dropping life jackets to rescue people stranded in the South. Now millions bracing for heavy rains across the East as their morning commute gets underway.
Also this morning, Omarosa versus the White House.
Lowlife. She's a lowlife.
President Trump blasting his former aide as she goes on a tirade against him. Now releasing audio that she says is from the moment she was fired in the Situation Room, claiming it's proof she was threatened to keep quiet. Now, will the White House take legal action against her? Can they, for that secret recording?
United against the right. Thousands of counter-protesters and police outnumbering far-right protesters outside the White House and in Charlottesville, a year after that deadly extremist rally.
The plane crash mystery, a member of the ground crew stealing a passenger plane from one of the busiest airports in the country, taking it on a wild ride before crashing, saying he learned how to fly by playing video games. Now the major security concerns as authorities recover the data recorder.
And float on. The women enjoying their afternoon on a unicorn float when all of a sudden they get stuck. How a passing police officer came to the rescue.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
And we do say good morning, America. We hope you had a great weekend. Our week is off to a great start with David Muir.
Oh, thank you. You know, it was funny this morning when we turned the corner in that hallway from one end of the hallway to the other. We wish we had a camera on that, right?
We
We just slow-mo to each other.
And then he went down like he was going to pick me up.
And she said, no.
God, there was a
I could have
camera
pulled
on
it
that.
off.
So we have our limits.
Yes.
Well, we are happy to have you here, David, and we're going to begin this morning with that dangerous weather that's hitting much of the country. The Northeast bracing for more flash flooding this morning, while millions are facing a very messy commute.
And Michael, this after scenes like these over the weekend, cars underwater, forcing rescues from Texas to New Jersey. Ginger is starting us off with the very latest. Good morning, Ginger.
What a weekend and what a morning already, Robin. Life-threatening flash flooding is happening again this morning thanks to this. Abundant moisture at the surface, a stalled front that just won't budge, and 2 to even 6 inches of rain falling just since midnight in eastern Pennsylvania. Summer soaker.
It was like a tsunami.
Oh my, look, it went under.
Flash floods picking up car after car at a New Jersey dealership, sending them down a swollen creek, slamming one after another into a bridge.
They're all filled with mud, rocks.
This is unbelievable.
5 inches of rain falling fast in West Caldwell, New Jersey.
God, those cars are completely underwater.
And at JFK Airport here in New York, a backflow of rainwater causing a fountain to erupt inside the airport. North of Boston, in Lynn, Massachusetts, drivers forced to abandon their cars after more than 8 inches of rain fell. In Jackson, Mississippi, 3 inches of rain in just 45 minutes left streets and neighborhoods swamped. And in Texas, more than 24 people rescued after nearly a foot of rain. All of this near San Antonio, where helicopters were airlifting life jackets to stranded tourists visiting Chalk Bluff Park. So you saw those flash flood warnings just west of Philadelphia this morning. How much longer do we have? About a day and a half of this. Binghamton National Weather Service just put out a warning that they're going to have the potential for flash flooding. You can see anywhere from 3 to more than 4 inches of rain could fall in some of these pockets. And just a quick check of what's happening on the other side of this stalled front, another low there. Western Texas going to pick up more, eastern Oklahoma and northern Arkansas. So flash flooding in many parts of the country. Robin?
All right, Ginger, thanks very much. David?
Robin, thanks. We're going to turn now to that battle raging between the White House this morning and former aide Omarosa Manigault Newman. The president firing back at Omarosa, calling her a, quote, lowlife over sensational claims she's now making in interviews and in her new book. And now she's released audio she claims is from the moment she was fired, secretly recorded inside the White House. Our chief national affairs correspondent, Tom Yamas, is here this morning with all the details. Hey, Tom, good morning.
David, good morning to you. She's on a book tour, but it's feeling more like Omarosa, the revenge tour. We're now learning on the day she was fired, Omarosa walked into one of the most secure and sensitive areas of the White House, ready to record. This morning, Omarosa drawing the wrath of the White House, admitting she secretly recorded Chief of Staff John Kelly inside the Situation Room as he was firing her.
I think it's important to understand that if we make this a friendly departure, we can all be, you can look at your time here in the White House as a year of service to the nation, and then you can go on without any type of difficulty in the future relative to your reputation.
Omarosa says that's proof she was threatened to keep quiet. The White House says the recording is proof she has no character or integrity. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders says the very idea a staff member would sneak a recording device into the White House Situation Room shows a blatant disregard for our national security.
If I didn't have these recordings, no one in America would believe me. No one.
And she says there are more alleged recordings at issue, including one she now says she heard. In her new book, Unhinged, Omarosa claims 3 people told her about a recording of the president using the N-word on The Apprentice set, but she wrote she never heard it herself. The existence of any such tape has never been proven, but now the former White House advisor claims she heard it.
Once I heard it for myself, it was confirmed what I feared the most, that he is truly a racist.
Omarosa says by the time she heard it, the book could not be updated. She also claims the Trump re-election campaign offered her this consulting contract obtained by the Washington Post, which promised $15,000 a month in compensation. But she describes it as a hush agreement. The non-disclosure agreement states she could not demean or disparage publicly in any form or through any medium the campaign or Mr. Trump.
That's not hush money. Everybody sends an NDA.
Over the weekend, President Trump sharing his thoughts about his former contestant on The Apprentice that he brought into his campaign and into his White House.
Low life. She's a low life.
On the campaign trail, and even after she was fired, Omarosa was a fierce defender of the president.
I would never sit nor work for someone who I believe to be a racist.
For her part, Omarosa is taking some blame for standing by the president's side after he made racially insensitive comments.
Oh, totally complicit. In fact, I had a blind spot where it came to Donald Trump. I wanted to see the best in him. And obviously, I felt miserably.
The Trump re-election campaign is also firing back, saying Omarosa is now in the business of peddling propaganda to sell books. The White House has called all of those allegations, including the use of the N-word, lies and false accusations. David?
All right, Tom, thanks so much. We're going to dig down deeper here with our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams, who's with us this morning. And Dan, this was in the Situation Room. A lot of people watching this morning are going to say that's one of the most secure rooms, if not the most secure, in the White House. Did she violate the law, though?
She violated protocols. She violated rules. She may have been a national security threat. And yet she may not have violated the law. And the reason is because, number one, the information that she released, at least on the Kelly tape, isn't classified information. It was just her being fired. And number two, Washington, D.C. is what's called a one-party consent state, meaning only one of the 2 people need to consent in order to make a recording, which is what she did. So I don't see, at least based on this tape, how what she did is illegal, even though it was wrong and a violation of rules.
Yeah, it's funny, you and I were saying it's remarkably clear, the audio on this tape as well. She says she has many other conversations. Is there anything the White House can do to try to halt these from being made public, too?
Well, I think you have to think about not where the recordings were made, but what is on the recordings. So I think that's where they potentially could go after her, meaning I think they may try to overclassify now. They may try to classify almost any conversations with Omarosa.
But can they do that?
Well, look, you're allowed to classify. That's up to them in terms of what gets classified and what doesn't. There are arguments all the time about overclassification. So they can certainly try now to classify conversations that had happened with Omarosa so that if she does release future conversations, then they can go after her. Then they can say, that's classified information, and as a result, that's a violation of the law. Now, whether that's the right or wrong thing to do is a separate question, but when they say they're going to go after her, that's the best I can think of in terms of what they have.
They'll do it.
Yeah.
Still startling, though, to think about a conversation recorded in the Situation Room.
Oh, I mean, startling. I mean, just because it may not be a violation of the law doesn't mean that it's not unbelievable that it actually happened.
All right. Dan Abrams with us this morning.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan, as always. Michael?
Thank you, David. Now to those dueling demonstrations in the nation's capital. A small group of extremists staging a so-called white civil rights rally right across from the White House. This coming 1 year after that deadly violence in Charlottesville. But they were vastly outnumbered by thousands of counter-protesters, and ABC's David Wright has the story.
1 year after Charlottesville, a very different scene here in the nation's capital. Legions of counter-protesters swarmed the city, united against the right.
I think this is the chance we have to really show that we as a nation are against racism, bigotry, and hatred.
Some of them masking up for a possible street fight. But Unite the Right, the group that organized that violent Tiki Torch March in Charlottesville 1 year ago, failed to gather significant numbers of marchers this year.
There were a lot of people who were at last year's rally who are very scared this year. They felt like last year they came to express their point of view. They were attacked, and when they fought back, they were overly prosecuted.
Fewer than 24 of them turned up on the day. As they boarded the subway to ride into town, their police escorts forced them to leave their flagpoles behind, lest they be used as cudgels. When they emerged in D.C., a big crowd was there to greet them, and not in a friendly way. This massive crowd is all people who are either counter-protesters or police, and they far outnumber the protesters themselves. In Charlottesville overnight, a much more peaceful scene than last year. 4 people were arrested, but no fights among the protesters. The mother of Heather Heyer, the woman killed last year, spoke out.
My daughter had a mission, and it's my job to complete that mission.
And thank you to David Wright for bringing us that story. Robin?
And it was good to hear from Heather's mother.
Absolutely.
Now to the desperate search for a missing teenager in Phoenix. 19-year-old Kira Bergman was last seen more than a week ago when she left work early. ABC's Marcus Moore has the latest. Good morning, Marcus.
Well, Robin, good morning. That urgent search is underway for that 19-year-old who was last seen on the morning of August 4th after leaving her job. And Bring Kira Home is the hashtag being used on social media this morning to raise awareness in this growing search for a beloved teenager.
Everybody out there that has been praying for my daughter to come home and praying for our family. We are so thankful. We're so overwhelmed.
Worried friends and family say they have not seen or heard from 19-year-old Kira Bergman in more than a week. Last seen in her Phoenix apartment, her mother deeply concerned for her daughter's safety, saying being out of touch for this long is not like her.
For her to leave her purse with her wallet and ID there at the apartment, that's not normal. That's why I feel like there's something not right here.
The missing teen, originally from San Diego, moving to Phoenix with her boyfriend in March. This morning, police have not identified any suspects and are asking for the public's help.
Communication with family just stopped. That's concerning, not only for the family, but for the investigators.
I just miss my sister, and I want her to come home.
The community holding a vigil, leaving flowers at her doorstep and praying for her safe return.
It's not a vigil for like a memorial. It's more of a vigil for hope that we are going to find her and we are going to bring her home.
But you still get a sense of the anguish there. And what is so concerning for Bergman's family is, again, her wallet and ID were all left behind in her Phoenix area apartment. But she is nowhere to be found this morning. Her family says that is completely out of character for her and Robin. They are so worried that she is in real danger, and they want her home right away.
Absolutely. Robin. Hopefully she'll be found safe and sound very soon, Marcus. This is a reminder around the country. Marcus, thank you.
Thanks, Robin. We're going to turn now to the uproar over a police beating in Baltimore. The police officer seen in this video repeatedly punching a man on the street, suspended after the tape surfaced online. The officer has now resigned. The police department issuing a statement saying, quote, the officer involved in yesterday's incident is no longer with the BPD. The second officer remains on administrative duties. Baltimore officer who can be seen repeatedly punching McGreer in the head and body. All charges from this most recent incident against McGreer were dropped.
All right, now we're going to turn to a powerful moment in Chicago. The priest who survived that plane crash in Mexico, where everyone made it out alive, returning to his parish to celebrate his first Mass, joined by fellow survivors. ABC's Ariel Reshef is here with the story. And Ariel, he said surviving wasn't the only miracle that day.
That's right, Michael. Father Ezekiel Sanchez says the real miracle is how many people risked their lives to save others from the fiery wreckage. Over the weekend, the self-described bionic priest bringing together survivors for that special mass. A frightening accident that would ultimately become a test of faith. This Aeromexico flight crashing during takeoff, strong wind gusts and hail hammering the aircraft. Then suddenly everything went dark. Miraculously, all 99 passengers and 4 crew members escaped, including this man.
What could you see out of the window?
Nothing, just white.
Father Ezekiel Sanchez, one of the 65 Americans on board. As he lay in the hospital recovering from several arm fractures in the days after the crash, he jokingly called himself a bionic priest.
I'll become the bionic padre.
The bionic padre.
This weekend, he had a happy homecoming in Des Plaines, Illinois, where he gave a mass and spoke about the true miracle that occurred that day. Survivors rushing back to the plane to help those injured.
I, as well as other brothers and sisters, were inside that crash. Could have easily just ran away as fast as we could, but there were brothers and sisters inside the plane as soon as they got out that went back to help others get out.
At the end of the service, 7 other survivors from that accident invited to join Reverend Sanchez for a special blessing.
So together as brothers, let's face our...
And that mass was standing room only. Father Sanchez says he hopes the accident has helped open people's hearts to the possibility that true miracles can happen.
Yeah.
You see him just with his sling, and that's it after that fiery crash. It's amazing.
It is. Ariel, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, there was a big day on the golf course. Just ask Michael Strahan here. Tiger Woods making a huge comeback, closing out the PGA Championship in second place, his best finish in a major since 2008. It was like Sunday of old.
Yeah. It was.
I know, the trademark red.
Fun to watch.
He's in the hunt. But it was all about 28-year-old Brooks Koepka, who broke a record. He has now won 3 majors in just the past 14 months, joining a very elite club of golfers who have won that many before turning 30. One of them, Tiger himself.
Really amazing. I mean, he was on fire yesterday.
Oh, and he got within 1?
And then when you see that Tiger Woods is coming after you, or, you know, coming up and creeping up, and Brooks, he hung in there. He's a great competitor.
I love how you started yelling and all the kids came to the room.
Yeah, I left the kids to watch golf because they didn't want to watch it. Once I yelled, they came up with me.
Ginger knows what that's like. She's tracking the weather for us. Hey, Ginger.
I love that. Now, we have to, of course, check in on the wildfires, guys, because you see Holy Fire. They've made huge efforts this weekend and now up to 52% containment. This is from a security camera, a time-lapse capturing all of that pyrocumulus eventually that made its way up into there. Just a bunch of smoke in those images. Red flag warnings are in place for northern Nevada. These are for outflow boundaries that are happening now from other thunderstorms, so you could see some gusty winds. Luckily, a little cooler, but more heat on the way this week. Let's get to the select cities now, brought to you by Sensodyne Pro-Enamel.
We all want white teeth. You know, doc, how can I get whiter, brighter teeth? And the dentist really has to say, let's take a step back and talk about protecting your enamel. It's important to look after your enamel because it's the foundation for white teeth. I believe dentists will recommend Pro-Enamel Strong and Bright because it's twofold. It strengthens your enamel, but then also it polishes away stains for whiter teeth. So it's really something that's a win-win for both the patient and the dentist.
We've got rain chances on the bookends of this week. Today, tomorrow, even a slight chance, but an 80% chance for today. Then we've got a 30% chance coming your way for Friday. Midweek, some of our driest conditions, but we'll get a little bit of heat and higher humidity for Wednesday and Thursday. Today, storm chances all the way through. More likely, though, after 2 o'clock and up until about 8 p.m. We'll go from 85 today to 87 tomorrow and into the 90s again midweek with that higher humidity.
Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. That's what the sky looked like. Look, this is from over the weekend, right? Over Manhattan. That's what it made me think of.
Gosh.
I had to, but you guys experienced it, I'm sure. The thunderstorms.
How many flood alerts did we get on our phone?
I know.
I was like,
hey,
oh my goodness.
You can't say you didn't know not to go and turn around, don't drown, right?
Not complaining.
Not complaining. The warning was there.
Yep. Coming up, we have the new security concerns after a passenger plane was stolen from one of the busiest airports in the country, taken on a wild ride before crashing. The person who took it said he learned how to fly by playing video games.
It's crazy. And the political candidate in the crosshairs accused of lying about her degree. You'll see the diploma and the clues next.
Over the last 24 hours, you've finished preparing